broccoli. And this broccoli is known to be very rich as far as these phytonutraceuticals are concerned. And this broccoli is known to detoxify our body as far as the carcinogens are concerned. Now, in present day scenario, because of the COVID, consumption of vegetables has become more important and more imperative. So we can say that vegetables boost our this immune system, and they enable our body to fight a considerable number of diseases. Now, a small slide what this ORAC value is and what this ORAC stands for. ORAC, it basically stands for the oxygen radical absorbance capacity. As far as the present this uh, medical science goes, present concept of medical science goes, it says that these whatever diseases occur within us, these occur because of the accumulation of certain radicals, what we call free radicals. Once these free radicals accumulate, now why do these free radicals accumulate within our bodies? It is because uh, whatever functions we perform, be it respiration, be it digestion, or any other function which we perform, these oxygen free radicals, these are liberated, and these slowly and slowly these accumulate in our body. So once we consume vegetables, these have antioxidant capacity. So these phytonutraceuticals or these antioxidants, what they do, they literally consume these free radicals, or they scavenge on these free radicals, and they detoxify our bodies. That is why some of the vegetables that have high ORAC value, that means they have high oxygen radical absorbance capacity, that means they can scavenge on these free radicals to a considerable extent and get us rid of the toxins that are present in our body, and that ultimately cause become a cause of certain diseases like cancers, heart attacks, and all that. This I am telling because once we go for cultivation of vegetables, we need to know why are we going to cultivate vegetables. Once we consume vegetables, we need to know why do we need to consume vegetables. So I think these two slides, this must have given you a clarification that why at all we need to consume vegetables, what is the need of vegetables, why are we always being told by dietitians and doctors and WHO to consume these vegetables. Now, if we consider vegetable cultivation as an enterprise, hmm, uh, first of all, I would also like to add that as far as dietitians are concerned, they are of the opinion that we need to consume about 300 or more than 300 grams of vegetables per day. Per capita consumption of vegetables per day, it must be more than 300 grams. But in our scenario, under Indian conditions, a normal person is not able to, on an average, get more than 180 grams of vegetables. So there is a gap between the demand and supply of the vegetables. So in order to bridge up this gap, in order to consume what is recommended, in order to make vegetables available to the consumers in the needed, in the required amounts, we need to cultivate vegetables. And we need to enhance the production of vegetables, so to say. So there are two ways through which we can enhance this production of vegetables. One, what we call the vertical expansion, and another what we call the horizontal expansion. Now, what this vertical expansion means? This means the use of, say, we say hybrid varieties, or we say scientific technologies, or we say recommended packages. That is, whatever land is available with us, we will intensify the cultivation of vegetables, or we will go for vegetable cultivation on more scientific lines, so that the productivity, that is the production per unit area, it gets enhanced, and as such we will be able to provide the required amount of vegetables to all the whole of the population. Now, another what we call this horizontal expansion, it means that we will uh, start cultivating vegetables on those areas where we are not traditionally cultivating the vegetables. Here comes the what we call vegetable gardening, the exact topic of today. It is the vegetable gardening. So it will come under the horizontal expansion. Wherever we have the possibility of cultivating the vegetables, we have some land available with us, we will cultivate these vegetables on that land. That will come under horizontal expansion. Now, again, there are two scenarios. One is to go for vegetable gardening as an enterprise, and I suppose most of the youth, they must be listening, and there is a huge potential for this vegetable gardening as far as raising the economic status of our valley is concerned, and it can prove to be very lucrative business if it is done on scientific lines. One of the enterprises that we can go for with this vegetable gardening is the niche crop cultivation. Niche crop cultivation, these include the traditional crops that are grown over here. And I would like to tell you that one of the important niche crops that is grown under our this valley, in our valley conditions, it is the chili. Chili is very much known. Kashmiri chili is very much known for its this color. Color to chili, it is imparted by a pigment that is called cabxanthin. Our local chili, it is very rich in cabxanthin as compared to the chili produced outside our state. This may be because of the some genetic characters or due to some climatic characters. And also the pungency, it is lesser in pungency. That's why it is its powder is in, even in present day conditions, it is being mixed with the chili powder produced outside the state, and it fetches good price to the exporters who mix these our chili with their own chili in order to enhance its color. Similarly, potato is one of the vegetables that can be grown over here as a niche crop, and it can earn us a good living. So, in addition to these crops, in addition to the traditional crops, we have some crops available with us, which we call the exotic crops or exotic vegetables. In this slide, you must be seeing that there is at the top there is something that appears like our coriander, but it is not the coriander. It is the parsley. It's an exotic vegetable. And then there are colored capsicums, there is lettuce, there is cherry tomato. You can see in this slide what I was talking about. Cherry tomatoes, these are smaller than the cooking type. These are actually salad type of tomatoes. These are consumed as such without cooking. And there is a provision of raising these crops. We can raise these crops, and these crops, these have a high demand as far as the market outside our state, or even the high profile hotels of our state or of our valley are concerned. These have a good demand, these exotic vegetables. In exotic vegetable, one important vegetable is the broccoli, that fetches a good earning to a farmer if they go for its production. Then again, another option that is available as an enterprise in vegetable gardening, it is the off-season vegetable cultivation. The climatic conditions of our valley are such that the say for instance we grow peas. Peas, they are available in the month of April or in the month of May under our valley conditions. But we can export this pea, normal pea or even snow pea. We can export to other parts of the country, because at the time we produce this pea, other states, other plain states, they are not, those states located in the plains of India, they are not able to cultivate the pea at that time. So such crops, they can be exploited as off season vegetable cultivation. Then again, uh, as far as the climatic conditions of our this valley are concerned, we can go for biennial vegetable seed production. These biennial vegetables, these include the cruciferous vegetables like cabbage is there, nolcol is there, kale is there. We can go for the seed production. Even exotic vegetables, they also are biennial in nature, that is, they grow vegetatively in one season, and they go for this seed production, or they go for reproductive phase in another season. They basically require a vernalization or the chilling temperature, and only then they can just start for this production of seeds. Then another thing, another enterprise that can be taken up is the potato seed production. Potato, basically the high altitude potato, it is very much important as far as seed production of potato is concerned. High altitude seed is considered to be very good, very healthy, free of diseases. That is why if our we exploit this seed production of potato under high altitude areas, this can earn a good living to us. This can raise our economic level. Then again, nursery raising is there. Some of the youth, they can take up this nursery raising or early nursery raising as an enterprise. Now, coming to the layout of kitchen garden, how to begin with. If we have to go for kitchen gardening, if we want to raise our own vegetables, cultivate our own vegetables, what are the prerequisites that we need to keep in mind before just going for this vegetable cultivation? What we need to do? First of all comes the uh, selection of site. Once we intend to establish a kitchen garden, we have to see, we have to get a location, we have to get a site which is well lit. That means it is receiving sunlight in desirable quantity, in desirable amount. The shady areas, they can't be taken as this they can't be regarded as a good site as far as the kitchen gardening is concerned, because most of the vegetables, they are photosensitive, and they require this photo period of about 6 to 8 hours a day. So we need to have a well lit corner of our land where we can establish our this vegetable garden. And also we have to avoid the damp places, because in damp places where there is higher soil moisture, the probability of the occurrence of diseases and lanky plants, this and increases. We in future we can get diseased plants if our this kitchen garden is located in a shady area. So we have to preferably choose the southwestern part of our land, where we can just go for this vegetable cultivation. And then one more important thing is the source of irrigation. We need to have a dependable source of irrigation available with us, so that we can go for this vegetable cultivation. And here I would like to reiterate one thing, that we need to avoid the use of potable water, because usually we see that we use potable water for irrigating our fields, and we need to search other sources of these water, because these vegetables, they cannot be grown under rain fed conditions. We need to have a dependable source of water in order to go for successful vegetable cultivation. Then another thing that we need to keep in mind is the healthy soil. As far as healthy soil is concerned, healthy soil means the soil that is rich in this organic matter. uh, it must be having a high organic carbon. It must be good, its physical conditions, they must be good. Then we need to just maintain the topsoil. We need to maintain the topsoil of our vegetable gardens. Then uh, there are some problematic soils in certain places, like waterlogged conditions are there. In such conditions, we cannot go for normal vegetables, although we have options available with us under these waterlogged conditions how to grow vegetables. But normal vegetable gardening, that cannot be done under these waterlogged conditions. Then sometimes we have acidic soils or we have alkaline soils. We need to reclaim such soils, we need to modify such soils, we need to add certain substances to such soils, so that we get a good propagating material, that is the soil here, and we can grow our vegetables well. Then again, what type of soil is preferred for this vegetable cultivation? It must be clay loams. Clay loams are basically considered to be good soils as far as the production of these vegetables is concerned. Then again, once we have chosen this land, we have a site with us, we know where to cultivate our vegetables. Next step is the preparation of land. We need to prepare our land properly. Now, how to prepare our land? First of all, we have to go for turning of land properly, we have to go for plowing of our land, and we have to see that about as far as digging is concerned, about 20 centimeter deep digging is to be done. And the soil, the subsoil, it is to be overturned, so that there are different insects or even fungus or even weed seeds, these are present in the subsoil. Once these get exposed outside to the sunlight, and the desiccation of these spores or seeds, this takes place, and as a result we are able to get a good this soil, which is free from, almost free from different fungal diseases or different pests and all that. Then another thing that we once we are preparing land, and we need to keep in mind that we have to go for making of rectangular plots, as in the picture you must be seeing that we are having rectangular plots. Now, what is the logic behind these rectangular plots is that the width of these plots, these must be invariably about 1 meter. The width must be about 1 meter, and length can be any convenient length you can take. Why this 1 meter? Because once we have to go for intercultural operations, we need to have this 1 meter width, so that we can reach out to the even the middle of this plot to eradicate the weeds or diseased plants or whatever intercultural operations we need to go for. It is easy for us if the width is lesser, if the width is about 1 meter, it is easy for us to go for these intercultural operations that need that include weeding or irrigation or roguing out of diseased plants or picking of our fruits and picking of our harvest and all that. So the width needs to be about 1 meter, and length can be any convenient size. Then we have to keep the option of path wherein we can move easily while going for these intercultural operations. Then again, what is the area required? If we talk of a 5 member family, if there are 5 members in a family, what is the area that can do that can provide us with sufficient amount of these vegetables? It is about 300 meter square. If we have a 300-meter square area available with us as a kitchen garden, it can provide us with about 2 kgs of these vegetables a day, and that is sufficient for a family having 5 to 6 members. Then also we need to keep an option of say irrigation channels, so that the land whatever is available with us, it gets irrigated properly. Each and every bed, it must be connected to this irrigation channel. Then is the choice of crops. Which crops do we need? Which crops must we cultivate in our fields? It wholly and solely depends upon the taste of the family which is going to develop this kitchen garden. Uh, some will prefer to have solanaceous vegetables in higher amount, some cruciferous vegetables. It will depend upon the choice of the these family. Then one thing that we have to keep in mind is that some vegetables like cucumbers or different gourds, which are climbers, which grow tall, which grow massive, we have to adjust them on the walls of this kitchen garden, preferably on the north side of the kitchen garden, so that they do not overshadow other crops. Because say for instance, if we grow them in the east or in the west, they are going to overshadow other crops, other vegetables. So once we go for kitchen gardening, it is always advisable to plant the climbers on the north of your this kitchen garden. Then another thing is the staggered plantation. Staggered plantation means that, say, for instance, you have to plant, say, tomato in 3 or 4 beds. You have got 3 or 4 beds that you allocate for tomato production. You must just go for planting or transplanting in the one of the beds. Say in the month of March, you start transplanting of solanaceous vegetables. Then after 15 days, you will transplant this tomato in another bed. Then you will give a gap of some 10 days and transplant your seedling in another bed. This way, you will stagger the plantation. You will stagger the planting time of these vegetables, and you will get vegetable continuously for a say 5 or 6 months. The harvest time is reached. You will get this harvest for about 4 to 5 months. Otherwise, what happens if we plant all the 4 beds, if we have 4 beds available with us for a particular crop, and we plant all the 4 beds in a single day, what happens? We get a glut, we get a huge amount of this vegetable, uh, and we are not able to know understand what to do with this amount of vegetable. So we need to go for staggered planting. Then another thing is the protected nursery. If we are really interested in cultivating our own kitchen gardens, the cultivation or the raising of protected nursery is not a big issue for us, because we can go for this protected nursery. Even we can take pots, rectangular pots are available with us. We can take these pots and sow seeds in these pots and keep in some warm corner of our house. And by the time the temperature turns conducive, all the environmental conditions turn conducive. Say for instance, we are planning to go for the production of brinjal, or even cucumber or other crops. We can go for the production of their nursery within our house in a small pot, and we can just go for the transplanting once our seedlings are ready and the environmental conditions outside are conducive. In the month of say March, we can go for the transplanting of these seedlings. Then one another important thing is the time of sowing. Different vegetables, they require different temperature conditions, they require different sunshine hours, different humidity status for proper growth and development. So uh, broadly, these vegetables, these have been classified into 2 groups. One is the warm season vegetables, and another is the cool season vegetables. These warm season vegetables, these include the solanaceous group or the cucurbitaceous group, or even some brassicas are grown. Then in the cool season we have got this spinach is there, or other leafy vegetables are there. These then root crops are also there, which are important cool season vegetables. And now, like we are in the month of July. By the end of July we can go for the sowing of seed of these root vegetables, like turnip is there, radish is there, or carrot is there, or beetroot is there. We can go for the seeding or seed sowing of these crops. Here also one thing is important, that once we go for seed sowing, it is always to be kept in mind that we have to sow these seeds in lines. We do not have to simply broadcast them, or simply throw them. We have to maintain a proper spacing. If we desire to get a good crop, healthy crop, we need to sow these seeds in lines, or transplant whatever seedlings. We have to transplant and follow a particular spacing. And there as far as spacing is concerned, different vegetables, they have different spacings. Say for instance, we talk of kale, we have to follow a spacing of about 15 by 10 centimeters. If we go for this production of say tomato, we have to follow a spacing of about 45 by 45 centimeters. If we go for the production of say potato, we have to follow a spacing of 60 by 20 centimeters. So these things are to be kept in mind, that we have to follow a proper spacing that is recommended for a particular vegetable. And also, if we are going to produce seeds in our own nursery, we have to plant these we have to sow these seeds in such a manner that we adopt line sowing technique of these vegetable seeds. Now, say for instance, uh, this is here the crop rotation. Now what this crop rotation is, actually crop rotation means to grow different crops in succession in a field to avoid exhausting the soil and control the disease. So there are two things about it, about crop rotation. One is the that we avoid the exhaustion of the resources available in the soil, and second, that we to a considerable extent are able to control certain diseases and pests. Say we have here we have 4 years, year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. And then we have divided our this land, our vegetable garden. Say we have 4 areas. One area is for leafy vegetables, another area or another bed is for fruit vegetables, that will include tomatoes, gourds, brinjal. Then we have another area that is for root vegetables, and then one more area that is for legumes. And in second year you will observe that the area one, you will have to cultivate fruit vegetables. In the previous year you had cultivated leafy vegetables in area 1, but in the next year you will have to cultivate fruit vegetables in area 1. Then in third year you will go for another rotation, and you will sow root vegetables in area 1. And in another year, that is year 4, you will go for leguminous grow you will grow leguminous vegetables, like peas are there, beans are there. So this means that we have to change the location of our vegetables year after year. What will happen by this? uh, One thing is that once we grow one vegetable, single vegetable, over a period of time, over so many years, 2 3 4 years, on a same area of land, then what happens, the uh, it may happen that some fungal diseases, they may proliferate then in that area, that they may multiply in that area to a considerable extent. because they will get a suitable host for themselves. This has happened in, say, in case of chili. There is a disease that occurs in chili in our valley conditions, and it is because of the reason that many farmers, they grow chilies year after year in same area in their field, and that is why the spore load of that disease in that particular area, it gets intensified, it gets increased year after year, and we are not able to control such diseases. So crop rotation here plays an important role, because we change the location of these vegetables year after year, and thus we lessen the spore load of various fungus or various insects in that particular area. Another thing that this crop rotation does is that there are two types of, usually two types of these vegetables are there. One are the heavy feeders, and other group is the mild feeders. That means those vegetables which require nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium in considerable, in higher amounts, they are the heavy feeders, and those which require them in lesser amounts, they are the light feeders. Here in this we have got, say, garlic, onion, leek, shallots. These are light feeders. These are to be planted after these heavy feeders, legumes or heavy feeders. Here, cabbage family, this belongs to the group of heavy feeders. So, if we plan to plant broccoli and, say, this shallot or garlic in our field, we have to just rotate them. Okay, then next thing is the nutrient application. As far as nutrient application is concerned, I would like to tell you that there are three important nutrients that we need to apply to our soils. They are called the macronutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. We need to add these to our soils considerably, and the amount, what amount of these nutrients we need to add, this depends upon which this crop we are going to plant. Different crops have different these recommended fertilizer doses, what we call, and we have to go by those recommended fertilizer doses. Now, one thing that we need to keep in mind, that the major sources of these nutrients, either we can go for organic, we can add organic substitutes to our soil in order to add these nutrients, or we can go for inorganic, or we can go for integrated management of nutrients, in which we add both organic as well as inorganic substances to our soil in order to enrich it, in order to add nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium to it, so that the availability of these nutrients, they become available to our future crops. Now, what are the sources of organic these organic sources available with us? First of all is the farmyard manure, then is the sheep manure. Similarly, we have got poultry manure, and one important manure that we have got, that is available with us in our valley, that is being produced by so many entrepreneurs at present, is the vermicompost. It is a very rich organic manure that can be used particularly in our kitchen gardens in order to enhance the availability of nutrients to plants from our soil. Now the question arises, what amount of this, tentatively, what amount of this nutrient can we add to our soil on a tent? As I have earlier told you, that there is a specific quantity of nutrients that needs to be added to different crops that we grow in our, say, kitchen gardens or commercial gardens. But one approximation is that we can go for about 3 kgs of this farmyard manure. Say 3 kgs of farmyard manure is sufficient for 1 meter square of land. And in kitchen gardens, I will say that you need to prefer to use these organic inputs, these organic manures, and avoid the use of inorganic, because you need smaller amounts of, for commercial cultivation we need larger amounts of manures and fertilizers, but for our kitchen gardens we need them in a smaller amount, so we can afford to, or we can get these manures easily in smaller amounts. And one more important thing is that once we add these organic substances or organic manures to our soil, we have to add them 15 or 20 days prior to the this planting of a crop. That means we have to prepare our land 15 or 20 days prior to the transplanting or prior to the sowing of seeds. Once we are preparing our land, we have to add these organic manures. Say if we have farmyard manure, we have to add this 15 days before the transplanting of the crop into the field. Then this farmyard manure, this must be well decomposed. Unless it is well decomposed, it is going to play a havoc, cause a havoc in your soil in future, because it is going to be a breeding place for a lot many diseases, pests and weeds. So whenever you apply farmyard manure to your soil, it is very important that this farmyard manure, this must be well decomposed. Similar is the case with other manures, be it sheep manure or poultry manure or vermicompost. This must be well decomposed material that we add to our this soil. Then another source of nutrients that we can add to our soil is the inorganic sources, through which we can just enhance the availability of urea, the availability of nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium. And three important fertilizers that we usually apply to our soils. These include urea, which gives nitrogen to our soil, diammonium phosphate or DAP, which gives phosphorus to our soils, and then MOP or muriate of potash, which gives this potassium to our soils. So once we are going to apply urea to our plot, to our this uh, kitchen garden bed, we have to apply it in two splits. This thing is to be remembered, that urea is to be applied in two splits, while as MOP, that is potash and phosphorus, they are given usually as a single dose. And one dose, that means half of nitrogen, full of phosphorus and full of potassium, they are to be incorporated once we are preparing the soil. We have to add these fertilizers to our soil. Then we go for transplanting or seed sowing or whatever. And as far as second dose of nitrogen is concerned, it is given once the crop attains a particular height, and there is a particular stage for every crop to add this second dose of nitrogen. Then one more thing is that why do we always advocate the use of these organic substances, organic inputs to our soil? One of the main reasons is that they not only add the availability of different micro and macronutrients to our soils, but they also enhance, they also improve the physical conditions of our soils. Physical conditions, be it the bulk density, be it the water holding capacity, be it the aeration, be it the structure and texture of the soil, these get enhanced by the application of organic manures only. And if we go for a second option, that is the use of inorganic fertilizers only, this with time, this has deleterious effects on our soil. The salinity of the soil can get increased to the extent that it cannot support the crop growth in future. So it is always advisable either to go for organic inputs only, or to go for the combination of organic and inorganic, what we call integrated nutrient management. Then in addition to these two, we have one more thing that we can add to our soils, and these are the biofertilizers. There are different compositions of biofertilizers available with us in the market, and in our university, SCOST Kashmir has developed a number of biofertilizers, azotobacter, azospirillum, or phosphorus solubilizing bacteria, or potassium solubilizing bacteria, which can be added to the soil, and which enhance the availability of nutrients to our plants. So one more thing that I would like to recommend here is go for the addition of these biofertilizers to the soil, so that you get a good, healthy, and quality wise good crop. Then after nutrition, one more thing is there. One more thing is there, that the raised beds, as I had earlier told you, that there are certain conditions where we have soil that is waterlogged. Hmm? Under waterlogged conditions, it is not advisable to go for the cultivation of vegetables as such, because once you have waterlogged conditions in the root zone, there is every apprehension that wilting of the vegetable will take place, and the crop will eventually die. So in such conditions, there is an alternative that we can go for raised beds. Raised beds, either as depicted in this slide, you can go for these boxes, wooden boxes are there, in which we have put some soil, or even pots can be used. See, we have different pots in which we can go for cultivation of different herbs. So this is just a method wherein you do not have conducive soil conditions for the cultivation of vegetables. What we can do there, even in urban conditions where we do not have much land available with us, we advise to go for this container container cultivation of different crops. Then one more thing is the weed control. Weed, basically these are the plants that grow in your field, and they directly compete with what you have grown in the field. They directly compete for the nutrients, for the moisture, for the sunshine. They compete with the main crop that is sown in a particular area. So it is very imperative to remove these weeds in time. And one more thing is that the if we do not remove these weeds, they become hosts for different pests and for different diseases that eventually destroy our crops. So weeding in case of kitchen gardens, this shall be done, the hand weeding must be done, whereas in other commercial gardens we can go for mechanical weeding, or we can go for chemical weeding. There are different alternatives available with us, but as far as kitchen gardens are considered, we have to go for this hand weeding only must be preferred. Then one more thing that I would like to share is the use of mulches. As I earlier told you, that we cannot afford to grow vegetables under rain fed conditions. We have to have a reliable source of water with us in order to grow our vegetables, in order to irrigate our vegetables, at least at the critical stages. But one thing that can be done is the use of mulch. Mulch, to a considerable extent, can be used in order to conserve the moisture uh, that is present in the soil. And under such conditions, to some extent, we can go for vegetable cultivation under rain fed conditions also. But some source of irrigation must even then be there. It cannot be exclusively rain fed, but at critical conditions, we can provide, if we need to provide irrigation to our soil. Then one major problem that we usually face under our conditions is Once we go for the production of cucurbits, here the slide shows this is the bottle gourd flower. Hmm? So, bottle gourd, it is a cross-pollinated crop, and it is entomophilous in nature. Bees usually under this facilitate this cross-pollination in the cucumber or bottle gourd. So you must be seeing here there are two types of flowers. One is the male flower and another is the female flower. This is the female flower with one small bottle gourd like structure. This is the female flower, and this is the male flower. Hmm? This is again the one flower in the hand of this person. This is the male flower. So what I want to show you here is that one major problem that we face in cucurbits in our kitchen gardens is the unfruitfulness. We are not able to get a good yield of fruits in our cucumber or bottle gourd. And one thing is because there is a failed pollination. Cross pollination or pollinators are not available with us who can naturally cross pollinate them. So we go for hand pollination. Here we need to go for hand pollination. What we do in the morning hours when the flowers are open, we simply take up the male flowers. We can cut the male flowers and touch the stigma of the female flowers with the pollen of that male flower, and that is what we facilitate this cross pollination, and as a result we are able to set fruits in this. So this is a method how to just counter this problem of lessened fruit, that fruits are not developed well or are not developed at all in the cucumbers or these gourds. Then another thing is the staking. In some of the varieties of tomato, we need to go for staking, because unless we go for staking, these will fall on the soil, and a number of these diseases and pests these can invade them. So this is a peculiar type of staking what we can do in case of these tomatoes. Then another important issue is the irrigation. As far as irrigation is concerned, the time of irrigation, when we need to irrigate. See, there is a critical stage for every crop when it needs to be irrigated. Unless we irrigate a crop at those critical stages, we are not going to get a good yield. Say, for instance, in case of chilies, the flowering stage is most critical, wherein we need to apply water to it. Unless we apply water at flowering stages to the chili, there is a flower drop and our yield substantially gets decreased. Similarly, in case of potato, there are different critical stages. Say there is a stage in potato where stolon development takes place, tuber initiation takes place, bulking of tubers takes place. These are the stages at which it is imperative to give irrigation to the potatoes. Similarly, in case of root vegetables, once these roots are developing, we need to give this irrigation uh, to the root vegetables at that time. So there are critical stages for different vegetables at which we need to give irrigation. In general, what we can do, we can simply in case of summers, once a week we have to apply irrigation, and we have to preferably give a deep irrigation. About 2 inches of this soil must be covered, about 2 inches of water must be present above the soil in order to irrigate it properly. Instead of light irrigation, frequent light irrigation, it is better to give a deep irrigation once a week in summers. Then also there is another method by which we can see whether our soil or our plants need irrigation or not. The method is that we have to simply collect some soil from our plot, and we have to just roll it in our hand. If it forms a ball like structure, then this means that moisture is present in the soil and we need not to irrigate it. If it crumbles down, if sort of powdery structure is formed, then we need to irrigate it immediately. Then another thing is the harvest time. What is the time of the harvest when we shall go for harvesting of our vegetables? Say, for instance, I will have to connect my this laptop to my electricity source. I'm sorry, I'll be back. Now, one thing is there that when shall we harvest our vegetables? What is the time of harvest? There are some vegetables like onion is there. In case of onion, we need to wait for the neck fall stage. That is the stage when the leaves tend to fall themselves. That stage is called the neck fall stage. At this stage, we can go for harvesting of our these, be it onion or garlic or prawn. We can go for their harvest. Then, as far as tomato is concerned, if it is a kitchen garden, we have to harvest it at red ripe stage. However, if it is for market purpose, if we are going it on commercial scale, then we have to harvest it at turning stage, the stage where there is a slight tinge of this redness in the tomato. We have to just harvest it. So, similarly, in case of kale, we have to harvest the leaves once they are succulent. We do not have to wait to turn these leaves, they turn leathery at time. We do not have to wait till then. We have to harvest them once they are succulent. Then, in case of cucumber, we have to harvest the cucumber. The marketable stage is when it is seedless. It does not have seeds, developed seeds within it. We have to just harvest it at that stage. Similarly, in case of okra, the tip of the okra must be very crisp. At that time, we have to harvest it. So, harvesting is also important. When to harvest a vegetable, this plays an important role as far as the quality of that vegetable is concerned. Then one more important thing is the measures for the control of biotic stresses. So a plant or a crop, this eventually has to face a number of biotic stresses in terms of diseases, in terms of pests. There are different options available with us. There are different agrochemicals available with us for different diseases and pests that we can utilize and that we can spray and utilize in order to control these diseases and pests. However, here I will tell you some of the common measures, some of the prophylactic measures that we need to follow in order to control to some extent these diseases and pests. One of the measures is the field sanitation. Now, what this field sanitation means, it is simply that we have to keep our field neat and clean. We do not have to allow the fallen leaves, fallen fruits, or weeds to rot in the soils. We have not to allow them to lie there in our soils because they basically they act as a host that harbor different diseases and pests in future. So once you see there is a dead leaf, there is a fallen leaf, there is a rotten tomato, you simply have to remove it out of your field, and you have to keep your this field clean. Another thing is the removal of fields from the bunds. Even though at times we clean our these vegetable beds properly, but the bunds are they are just covered with the weeds and grass and all that. So we have to ensure that the weeds that are present on the bunds or anywhere in the vicinity of our fields, we have to remove these weeds also, so that the pests and diseases they do not harbor on these. Because most of the times, what happens? These weeds, these harbor the pests and the disease causing organisms, and they act as secondary hosts for them, wherein they complete their life cycles, and then once they get a good host available with them, they just attack that host. So we have to remove these secondary hosts which are present in our fields in the form of weeds. Then again, one more thing is that we do not have to allow this water to remain stagnant in our fields. We have to maintain proper drainage of our fields. If our fields are not well drained, if there is stagnation of water in our fields, we are not going to get a good quality crop. So, one more thing is crop rotation that I have already told you. Crop rotation is also important as far as the is used as a prophylactic measure for disease control. Then another thing is the intercropping. We can we can cultivate a number of crops in a field, line after line. So one line of this cucumber, say tomato is there, then another line of any other crop is there. This we call intercropping. Intercropping we usually done in case of widely spaced crops. Say if we talk of potato, it is a widely spaced crop. It has a space of about 60 centimeters between two rows. There is a space of 60 centimeters between two rows of potato that is to be maintained. So this 60 centimeter space, this can be utilized for the cultivation of another crop. And if we cultivate another crop in this space, we call it intercropping. And as far as intercropping, we can go for intercropping of table radish with this potato, intercropping of maize with potato. So there are different. Here, what I want to tell you is that if we go for intercropping of marigold in cruciferous vegetables, if we use marigold, we to a considerable extent can lessen the damage of that cucurbits have to face due to different insects. We can lessen that to a considerable extent. Similarly, we can go for the use of yellow traps. In our fields, we see there are a lot of flying insects are there, and different moths of different pests are present there. We can go for sticky traps, sticky yellow traps. These are available in the market, and even we can prepare them ourselves also. These are simply yellow paper with some sticky substance on its surface, so that the flies like white fly is there, or other flies are there, they get stuck to this and they are not able to infest our particularly our cruciferous vegetables. So that is about the measures or the prophylactic measures that can be taken in order to control the or in order to uh, defend our crops from different against different biotic stresses. With this, I like to thank you all. uh, do I have any queries?
Staggered plantations, warm season planting, cool season planting, crop rotation, light feeders, heavy feeders. We also learned about the application of nutrients. We moreover learned about pot cultivation, which is very, very applicable in today's scenario. We learned about harvest of those crops, and finally the sanitation of our fields, of our kitchen gardens. It was really a very, very informative lecture. And finally, I thank you on behalf of the principal of Government College for Women, Maulana Azad Road, on behalf of our department, and especially, I thank you from the core of my heart for this very, very informative lecture for day to day gardening practices. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, I'm really delighted. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. नहीं आप उसमें फाइनल क्या होना है I welcome you again to second part of our deliberations. I welcome Dr. Qazi Altaf Hussain, who is Senior Assistant Professor cum Junior Scientist, Division of Floriculture and Landscaping, SCOST, Kashmir Division. Dr. Qazi has a teaching experience and teaching and extension experience of almost 14 years and has a vast experience in landscaping, gardening, and turf culture. Dr. Qazi was involved in designing of world-famous tulip garden of Kashmir and has provided conceptual plans for Eco Park, Biodiversity Park, Aplona Army Base, and Faculty of Agricultural Sciences. He has more than 20 publications in national and international journals of repute. He has undertaken many research projects and is a recipient of fellowship from National Academy of Sciences, India. Now, moving to the next part, we'll be deliberating upon the ornamental plants and their cultivation. Over to Dr. Qazi, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for my introduction. Basically, I welcome all the participants in this webinar. So, actually, I wanted to share this by this PPT. So I'm just trying to share it. Am I audible to you? Hello? Hello? Am I audible? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's audible.
Very good afternoon. Very good afternoon to all of the participants in this. So, actually, I'm just coming to share my this PT. Hold it. You just wait a moment.
So, what is the sir? Hello.
Yes, hello. I'm struggling with this. No?
Okay.
This PPT is not.
Because your video is frozen, sir. You just try to refresh it.
Actually, yes. So, anyways, let us start. Actually, I'm not able to share this PPT right now. So, I think I'll be trying to justify with this topic, which has been assigned to me, though it is a general topic which encompasses a lot of things, which it is not possible to discuss all the things in about 45 minutes of time slot. But we'll try to do our level best to do justice with the topic. So the basic, so the topic assigned to me, am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Yeah. So the topic assigned is basic practices in gardening or landscaping. Now, it is actually conceived by so many people, or they think this layman people just think that gardening is just simply growing up plants or growing up these flowers, though it is a complex process. It is basically a different thing. It is basically involves a lot of science, technology, and of course a deep insight in arts. Human being is involved with this gardening from very inception, like I can say, from the time the humans set their first foot on this earth, when the Adam and Eve, in fact, were thrown from the Garden of Edens, and they had to wander on this earth, and they had the idea of this garden, which has been mentioned in Holy Scriptures, like in Old Testament and in Quran. This whole story is narrated over there, and the concept of the garden has been like given or taught to humans, to human mind, by the God himself, because he is mentioning the heaven in the Quran or other holy scriptures at so many places. And it, if we see, the heaven itself means God. So now moving to the basic divisions of gardens, we usually see this as an agricultural activity, though lot of agriculture or lot of floriculture, there is a role, great role in beautifying the land, beautifying that portion of land that we call landscaping. We make that portion or that part of land uh, in a picturesque manner. We use several components. Certain architectural features are used, and certain non-architectural features like natural elements are used for beautifying that tract of land or that portion of land. And in a in one word, we say that is called landscaping, or that is called landscape gardening. So here we will restrict. It's a vast subject. Here we will restrict to small gardens, because nowadays people are struggling with the epidemics, this COVID, and nobody is able to go out of the homes. And the people who are having some sort of land around their dwellings, they want to get involved, or they want to keep themselves busy with some sort of activity, home activity. So it is a beautiful hobby and beautiful pastime, and people, after all, they have with time they have developed the taste of making these gardens around their dwellings. So nowadays, it is really a good pastime to do some activity in the adjoining yards of the dwellings, and that way you remain psychologically also fit. So I was talking that this intervention requires basically a deep knowledge of architecture, a good insight in engineering, a good insight in designing, and a good insight in floriculture as well. Knowledge of plants is a must. And in one word, I can say that the person who undertakes this, or who performs, who has got this sort of uh, designing the gardens, who has this sort of technique in the hand, he is called landscape architect. And the architect, whosoever, whether he is from architect field or he is from some other field, this has been usually seen that this is a joint effort. This is a creative activity where joint efforts or some specialized people are to be required. One is landscape architect and another is floriculturist. If one of them is missing, the design or the garden does not come up to the expected levels or to the expectations. Most of the times, some of the people, they strive hard, and they just learn some of the things in the architect. If they are from the agriculture background, they go in the architectural field. They just learn by doing, and some from the architecture background, they come, they study botany, they study plants, though it is a difficult part for them also. And similarly, it's a difficult part for the floriculture people to go for studying whole architecture. But some way, this, I mean to say that it is a combined effort of the two specialty domains. So now let us see, let's see what are the main divisions which we divide. We are dividing this landscaping or this gardening in, I will be taking this topic to a different level, because I don't want to deal with only part of growing the plants and all those things, because garden ultimately means that you should have something aesthetic before your eyes. It doesn't mean that if you are having a colorful flower that is not placed in a in a good manner before you, it grows in a shabby thing. It will distract you. So the thing is that the elements which we use, whether natural or man-made elements, which we use for creating a garden, should give an aesthetic appeal. It should really have reached that aesthetic uh, mm, aesthetic value, which will suffice your own aesthetic needs. So that is it. And here we will be dividing this gardening in broad two categories. The first category, we call it hardscaping. In gardening, it will be a thing a bit to the beginners, to the layman people. It will be a bit new thing for them. But for the people who are already in the field, they know all these things quite well. So we divide it into two divisions: hardscaping and softscaping. Hardscaping is the domain of architecture or the engineering part, and the softscaping is the part which is being dealt by the arboriculturists or the floriculturists or other designers who have a sound knowledge of plants. Then this hardscaping, it involves things like fountains, garden paths, pergolas, patios, carports, designing of bird baths, designing of so many concrete items, which are basically the adornments of the garden, which are not natural things. Now the softscaping, that involves use of flora, fauna, all plants, animals, and birds, or other natural elements like water, sand, stone, to create an aesthetically beautiful place, a garden. Now, as I earlier said, that it is a marriage, I will say, a marriage of science and arts. This gardening activity, it is not only science, it is not only arts. It involves both the things. You should have good amount of good knowledge of arts as well as science. So here we have to consider certain art principles as well. The basic art principles like balance, making of balance, creating of accent, creating of rhythm, creating of proportions, creating of simplicity, then unity, then harmony, those are to be taken care of. Unfortunately, I'm not able, because my laptop is not properly working, I'm not able to share the slides over here. So it would have been a very beautiful session if I had been able to do it or share the slides which I had prepared to make you understand how we achieve these underlying principles while making a garden, while designing a garden, while doing our gardening activity. So this includes into the basic elementary thing. So one cannot go without having some sort of background knowledge, without having that sort of thing. One cannot go into making a garden, and ultimately it will be wastage of money and it will be wastage of time over there. So digging of soil and planting of trees without having a plan, without having a proper understanding, that is all waste. And you might have will have experienced yourselves, all of you participants, I hope, if you are having some sort of garden area before your dwellings, you might have yourself experienced that it is very tough to give it a, 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 a beautiful appearance, to make it aesthetically very nice. What actually you wanted, that to create it, it is not easy to create it by simply planting the plants and by simply digging the soil and all those things. Then I was talking of the art principles that are to be considered first. And what does this balance mean? What does this accent mean? What does this rhythm mean? What does this proportion mean? Simplicity, unity. I'll be discussing, though I'm not able to share unfortunately share this PowerPoint presentation, those slides. It would have been easy for you to understand the thing quite well. So we are having, we'll take, suppose we'll take this balance and we draw an imaginary line that we call the garden axis. We draw a central imaginary axis in the center of the garden. The line is not drawn, it is an imaginary axis. And if the right-hand side of the garden is exact mirror copy of the left-hand side, we call it that it is symmetrically balanced garden. Or we can say it is a formal garden. When geometrical shapes or geometrical patterns on both right-hand side and the left-hand side of this imaginary axis, which we draw in the center of this garden, if we draw an imaginary line in the center of your garden, and we see there is all the components which we are using in the right hand side are used on the left hand side of the garden, then we say that the garden is in asymmetrical balance. This balance should not be in terms of components only. It should be in terms of visual balance, because it is actually the eye which has to capture whether the things used in your garden, they are they are in a perfect balance, or they are not in a perfect balance. The balance in terms of texture of the plants, balance in terms of the color of the elements of the garden, color, balance in terms of the height of the plants, balance in terms of say, suppose in one side we'll be using echinacea tree, that's the giant tree. On the left side, on right side we are using echinacea tree, on the left side we are using a different plant. If that different plant has to be at least that much giant in size, if it is a symmetrical balance, it should be that much giant that it will visually balance balance the two parts of the garden. So this is about the symmetrical balance. Then we say, then we are having one more component that we call asymmetrical balance. So how that asymmetrical balance is created, we usually do, we see that that is usually achieved in these Japanese. If you had been had seen some Japanese garden, there we use this informal type of balancing, or we use the components which are used, we use them in such a way that the weights, visually the weights from the two sides balance each other. So the Japanese people, they are very much expert in doing that sort of thing. So they have a style of gardening over there, their own typical style of gardening, and that is a typical example of this asymmetrical balance, achieving of asymmetrical balance. Now, coming to the focal point, a garden, in a garden, if it is a home garden or a big garden or an industrial garden or an educational garden or say any garden, you must have a focal point in a garden. That focal point should be the point of attraction. Suppose I will quote an example of the Mughal gardens. Mughal gardens in our Shalimar garden, say for example, Shalimar garden of Kashmir, they are using a pavilion, a monument. Suppose in Taj, they are using, the architects have used the tomb, the Taj, as the focal point. And for whole of the area, then landscaping is being done, and gardening activity is being done. But that focal point that has a particular activity that serves a function. In Shalimar Garden as well, we are having in our own Kashmir, we are having Shalimar Garden, and they have placed a pavilion which we call Baradri. It's having 12 openings, and that feature, besides adding to the beauty of the garden, that served some function during the Mughal period. Those queens used to come and sit over there. They used to bath over there. They used to have a private, a dwelling over there. So that was having some activity as well. So that component or that element was designed as a focal point of that garden. And similarly, we need to create a focal point in a garden. Unless and until there is focal point in a garden, the garden you will not be, because nobody is there to guide you in the garden. It is the garden itself which has to tell you which part you have to move, which way you have to go, which way you need to go. Because once you enter, if I tell an example, if you enter the Shalimar garden, nobody is there to tell you where to go, where not to go. But the garden itself drives you. It is the focal point. It's the attraction of focal point that attracts you to go to go these all the stairs, to go to raise to walk along the path and to move up to that point, and then you come back. So actually the movement in the garden itself, it is caused by the focal point, because unless and until you reach the focal point, you will not stop walking. You will not stop walking. So it is a part of the garden which actually drives you around the garden and shows you whole parts of the garden. And usually this focal point of garden has to be kept at such a place which is a bit far from the entry, so that a movement is created in the garden, and you walk through the garden and see all the components of that. Then these focal points can be created by using, besides these besides these structures, we can use architectural structures. We can use plants as well. We call them specimen plants, like huge plants. Sometimes if you see in the middle of dull. There are 4 chinars are there. So that is acting as an accent. That is acting as an accent of the dull. So that accent, that focal point, it drives, it guides the boatman, or the passengers, or the tourists to go to that place. So it is a point of attraction. So otherwise, while boating, a boatman can take any direction, but it is the focal point which actually guides them which way you have to move. Then specimen plants we can use in garden as well. We use usually specific specimen plants over there, which are very beautiful plants and very precious plants. Like we are having some acers, then we are having some colorful plants, some beautiful magnolias are there, some flowering, good flowering, uh, Magnolia satellita is there, white flowering plants are there. Sometimes we use that. And you should, sometimes we use these tulip flower beds also. But these accents go on changing because with season, once in flowering, they will be the point of attraction, but once the flowering is over, they will not be the point of attraction. So we have to take care that while using the plants as a focal point in the garden, we have to create several other focal points which come in flowering during other periods of the year, during other seasons of the year. Then coming to the rhythms, how to create the rhythms. Rhythms is nothing, you have to plant, the plants are the features at a particular repetition. You have to repeat that. Same item you have to repeat at a particular interval. Suppose if we are having a path in our garden. Suppose we are having a home garden, we are having a path. We want to use Italian cupresses, suppose. Then we'll plant at equal intervals. We'll plant 5, 10, 15, depending upon the length of the path of the garden. We'll plant all these plants along the path, and this whole row of plants at equal distance, it creates a repetition. It creates a repetition. Similarly, repetition is created by suppose placing of fountains in water channels. Like in our Mughal gardens, you might have seen the elements, the architectural element, that is fountain, that is placed at the specific intervals, and that creates repetition. And this repetition is basically, it is an art principle which is to be taken into mind while designing a garden, while making a garden. Though whether it is a use of plants or it is use of the architectural features. Then coming to the scale and proportion, you have to see if you plant a huge tree or a big tree or a long tree just nearer to your this house, it will look very odd. So what you have to do, you have to see, you have to proportionately see where to adjust. What is the height of this plant? How much it will grow? How far I have to use it from my house, so that they are in a sort of visual. There is a sort of visual balance is not break, and they are in visual harmony. Then coming to the simplicity, always you should consider, always while designing, while making a garden, you should not make it a mess. You should keep things very simple and sophisticated. Modesty is the best policy. If you keep simple things, if you use, it doesn't matter if you don't have much of variety of plants in your garden, but if they are used in a proper way and in a very simple way, they look very awesome. So simplicity has to be considered. Then unity, yes, once you are using with some components, they should complement each other. They should not contrast each other. Suppose you are using a red color and then you're using some yellow color just in a mixture, so it will be a bit contrast over there. This red color has to be used because normally for visual balance this has to be used at the far off corner because it's a fast color. And if you are having some cool colors like green color is there, blue color is there, this white color is there, you can keep them a bit nearer. Then coming to this harmony is also to be considered. Then yes, if you are having a variety, that variety of plant material, variety of the equipments, or the variety of the elements of the garden, those are to be used in a well planned manner. Then you might have heard golden ratio. Golden ratio. This golden ratio has to be considered if you want to plan a good garden. Golden ratio needs to be planned. Suppose if you are using plants, golden ratio 1, then you can use 3, you can use like you can use 7, you can use like that. So that scheme, it would have been very good if I had been able to show you this practically the slide of this. I could have been able to tell you how this golden ratio is to be taken care of while making a garden. Then coming to the styles of landscape. Basically, how do as a person learn? How do humans came up with the idea of gardening? As I told at the outset also that it is basically the Almighty God who has taught us the art and science of gardening. Adam and Eve were in the garden of Eden, heaven, made by God Himself, and they had learned how this garden should look like. And then the religious scriptures, they have a detailed account about how even in Muslim, we are a Muslim community, in our religious scripture, it is described in a number of times. How does heaven, how does it should be? And then actually the people, the mankind is imitating that sort of thing right from the inception. There were several people in the ancient history, like you might have heard the episode of the Shaddad. Shaddad has created a heaven. He had created a garden. He had made a garden which took him 7 years, 7 years, to complete that garden, to construct that garden. Ultimately, he wasn't able to see it. Then, if you go back to the earliest civilizations, like the civilizations of this Mesopotamia, Assyrians and Babylonian people, they were having a great art. They were great architects. If you see this pharaohs time in Egypt, the now the only remnants of that part is the tomb gardens, like those pyramids are there, because they were the concrete structures. But because at that time, most of the time, only this mud and this mud bricks were used. So for making the things, so all of them have vanished. Then Assyrian and this Babylonians, they were really, those Romans, they had a great knowledge of this gardening. So they had created a lot of gardens. Even if you see one ruler, Nebuchadnezzar, in 561, almost 561 BC, he had created a garden for her, this beloved wife, who was having a Persian background. So that garden was constructed, and that garden, the remnants of that garden are not there, but we are finding some gypsum reliefs of that garden are here, are preserved in National Museum of America. There you will find the design of the hanging garden of Babylonians is there. Though it is called the Garden of Nanu, but it is basically the hanging garden of Babylon. And people, just painters and the artists, they are trying to make the drawings of those gardens, the paintings of those gardens, and that they sell at a very high price. Then coming to the modern age gardens. These modern age gardens, we are using, suppose I will give an example. We use lawn in our garden. This is a component of a garden. We make a lawn in our garden. Why should we make a lawn? Why from this lawn has come up? Who has given the idea of making a lawn in your garden? So there should be some idea. There should be some pioneer who have really given the idea of using this lawn as centerpiece in the garden. So yes, there are people like English people were the pioneers in it, because they had imitated it from the nature itself, that their nature is, they have seen a lot of, because man conceives all these ideas either from reading or by observing the things. God has created earth. It is in fact a natural thing. So what we are trying to do, human mind always tries to imitate the natural things. So English people in 17th century, Robert Brown and Repton was there. Repton were the great architects, English architects of 17th century. They, their environment had open grasslands were there, and they just wanted to have that component in their own dwellings. So that laid the basis of using the lawn in the home gardens. So then it became popular throughout, and till date, this activity is there. Before that, these lawns were there. If you go to ancient gardens, like the Garden of Babylonia, you will see hanging gardens over there. You will not see this lawn component over there. So use of lawn component. Similarly, the use of pots. It is being mentioned that it is the contribution of pot plants. It has started by the Roman people. The Roman women used to collect seeds in the pots. They used to go for selling these seeds and all those things. And it happened by chance that some of the seeds developed plants. And they started cultivating the plants in the pots. And that laid the foundation of this using the pots in the garden. So that component we are using in our homes nowadays also. So modern gardening is basically, it is basically an age-old practice which has been conceived by some people. Even we don't know those people, and we are using that sort of thing in our modern times. Then comes the French era. After the English era, French era in the 17th or 18th century, there was an architect named as Lee Notary. Neil Notary, nowadays also a very famous architect. He had developed, and the gardens are well maintained. This time also they are well shaped. The Garden of Versailles, which is a marvel. And that garden was created, the axis of that garden was developed by destroying at least 3 villages. So 3 villages were destroyed. They were told by the government at that time of France that you relocate yourself somewhere else, because they were going to make a garden over there. And the designer was Lee Notary. So Lee Notary gave the Garden of Versailles came into existence, and the Garden of Versailles is still existing. I had some pictures of that Garden of Versailles in my PPT, but unfortunately I'm not able to show you that thing. Then similarly, Mughals came after in 15th century. Mughals in 15th century, they started in India. They had some Islamic background. Then they followed some Persian style of gardening also. And you very well know the Mughals have contributed a lot. They have given a lot of these gardens, though those are geometrical gardens. And the main concept is based on the heaven, because they are following the traced system over there, and the traces. This is in if you see in Quran itself, the heaven is described in levels: level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 7. Similarly, they used that concept in creating the traces in their own garden, and that's what I was telling, that It is basically we are copying the things which has been taught through scripture and through the environment itself. Then comes the Japanese style, Japanese components. We use them. We use those things in our gardens. In our gardens, we use those things. The way they plant the things, they used to plant the things we are using nowadays. Because modern times, we are taking parts from all the styles, say it be French style, say it be Muslim style, say it be Persian style, say it be Frau style, say it be Shiraz style, say it be this Buddhist style. We are taking components from every style and we are using those things nowadays. So the thing is that in this Buddha gardens or the Japanese gardens, you see that is also based on the concept of the heaven. They are using water. They are using water because it is mentioned in the Holy Scriptures that the in heavens you'll find water flowing like streams of milk there. Then they will use small plants, dwarf plants. They will use one particular thing. They are considered, these Japanese gardens are considered immutable gardens. They use evergreen plants and dwarf plants usually in there because they don't want there should occur seasonal change. That is there. They have been that is there in their religious scriptures that heaven is like this, heaven is described like that. So they have formed a typical art on that, and they are using those plants which do not which do not face, which do not change, or which remain throughout the seasons, which remain immutable. So the Japanese gardens are usually considered immutable gardens. Now coming to the, I think the styles, but from the weak components we derive. I think I had covered. I had covered all those things. Now I think I should go to the elements and the components and the features of this. Look, we are having uh, certain components in English garden. Suppose you might have heard haha wall. The wall is there that is called haha wall. Haha wall is a wall which is made in such a way that you visually, if you see, this is a big garden is there, you are not breaking, or you are not making any kind of terrace. But what you do, you erect a wall at some portion, then you just give a reverse slope to the soil. So if the wall is like this and your slope of the soil will be like this, this part is concreted and this is your soil profile. So what happens when you see this line and that line, this is quite, it doesn't break. It doesn't break. But the thing, what happens, it actually restricts the animals and all other things, beasts, to enter into the garden. So it is a wall, it is a restriction. Then again, it is not viewed if you view it from a far place. So it doesn't appear, it doesn't come up in the garden itself. You are not able to see it. It's not visible. That is not because if you want to wall is usually it is a partition. You erect a thing. You just screen out a thing by erecting a wall. But this haha wall is a thing which is a way of erecting a wall, getting yourself protected, getting your private areas of your garden protected, and secondly, the wall is not visible unless and until you reach to a certain level. That is, you reach here, you will be able to see the wall. Otherwise, you are not able to see the wall. So there are certain things which are given by these. These are the components given basically borrowed from the English style. Then coming to the there this Indian. How about India? What has happened in India? What about the contributions? If you go to the prehistoric times, we were having a civilization over here, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro civilizations. They were very well versed with this architecture. They had well-planned cities and they had well-planned gardens. Then Aryans, they brought with them literature. They brought with them 4 Vedas: Rig Ved, Atharvaved, Yajurved. Where there is mention of Samved, where there is mention of trees, plants, and arboriculture. Then after that came this Buddha time, Buddha and Ashoka. They were huge fans. In fact, we named certain plants after the name of the Lord Buddha, like both Gaya tree, both this Ashoka tree, Saraka Ashoka is there, Sal tree is there, where he used to uh, preach and where he used to worship the god. And then this Ashoka, who has ruled during 563 BC, he was a good agriculturist and he had a good passion for that. And he had sent him this missionaries, especially his son, to Sri Lanka. And at 250 BC, and they have planted plants over there. So they have done the gardening part over there. Then comes the period of Chandragupta. Chandragupta dynasty came. That again came in. So I mean to say, in short, I mean to say that in Indian India, we are having a rich background of using these plants, a rich background of gardening and garden design. Then after that came up this Mughal period. In Mughal period, you already know this the contribution of Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan. So all those gardens which we see nowadays, they are the contribution of Mughal period. Then British period. British also, they had a good contribution. Like you might be knowing the name of, you might have visited this National Botanical Garden, Lucknow. There's a contribution from British people. Then Royal Agriculture Horticulture Society in Calcutta, that is the contribution of British people. Then Bryant's Park, that is a contribution of British people. There are so many famous gardens, like Lal Bagh Garden in Bangalore itself. It's a contribution of British people. So then coming to the modern era, that's post-independence era. So we are having very good gardens like Buddha Park. Buddha Park is a Japanese type of garden which has been created in Delhi after independence of India. Then Rose Garden of Chandigarh, or itself the Chandigarh, the plant city which has been made after this independence. Then in our state, you might have seen several gardens have come up, like our tulip garden has come up, our this botanical garden has come up. So many gardens have come up after the independence period. So we are we as a nation, we as a people are very much involved in gardening, and we have our own way of doing the things. Then now these were basically some of the I mean to say I wanted to acquaint you people with the various styles. The reason is that we had actually borrowed certain things from these styles, these previous styles, and from them we have learned, and now we are using the technologies to design the things right. Earlier, what we as designers used to do, we used to draw all these features in the paper. Whatsoever feature we want to use, whatsoever plant we want to use, whatsoever thing we want to use in our garden, we used to draw them on paper. So nowadays, things have been made, thanks to the technology, things have been made easier for us. We are able to use computer. We are having AutoCAD, Revit software is there, SketchUp software is there. On that, this drawing part of making the plan of a garden has become quite easy, and it has become quite fast. It would take a lot of time to sketch the things. But now the sketching part, has the sketching problem has been solved by the computers. But there is one thing which is very important. That is designing. Design should be yours. It's only computers and machine. It will not design for you. It will not make a garden for you. Yes, it will help you sketching, drawing, but it will be really helping you helping you in the form of pen. You need not to use scales, you need not to use pen, you need not to use pencil, you need not to use paper. Yes, it will be providing all those things. Paper, pens, sketch, the scale. It will be everything will be provided by the computer itself on the screen. The thing is that you have to have some idea, have to have some concept. What I have to make? How should my garden look like? If you are having that imagination or that idea in your mind, then only you can go and you can start your work on, or you can ask some help from, or you can outsource the people. You can ask some help from the people who know this computer very well, and they can draw you what you are planning to do. The number of plants you want to use, he will provide. He will give you. You ask him that I want this number of plants, this type of plants to be used. He will place them where you want. Okay. Then, what are the elements and the features of garden? Look, we came to that point only. Elements as well as the features. These are both. One belongs to hardscape category, and other some belong to the softscape category. So let us first of all see the elements. What elements are there? First element, like lines, we have to create. Lines we have to create. And in case of lines, we can use vertical lines in garden. We can use horizontal lines. We can use curved lines, like we are making some circular curved paths and those are curved lines. Then we are using shapes, different shapes of forms of plants we are using. Like we are having a conical form of tree planted in our garden, or we are having a plant which is having a circular shape or having a round canopy that is to be used. So that comes into the element of form. Then color, which type of color we want to use. Then again texture, which texture we want to use. Then again pattern. Suppose in case of French style, we used to use potteries. Potteries, I will say those potteries are that's a very good idea of if you go for making a kitchen garden, that pottery garden will be a fine thing to do. So if you try a French style of gardening in your own backyard as a kitchen garden, that will be a wonderful thing. That will in fact help you in enhancing the beauty of that backyard, and simultaneously you will be having the vegetables, you'll be having some food also from that place. Then coming to this color. Yes, colors. In case of colors, we are having warm colors, as I said earlier, warm colors that we have to choose on the color wheel itself. So color wheel, we are having three primary colors. One is primary, this red color, then blue, and then yellow. If we mix red and violet, we get secondary color. That secondary color is orange. So then if we mix this blue and yellow, we get again a secondary color, that's green. Similarly, if we mix this blue and red, we get violet. That is secondary color. So these are secondary colors and primary colors. Then there is, if we add the portion of these primary and secondary colors, we get complementary colors, or we get some like some shades like a red orange or red violet. We get several shades, and those are to be used in this. Those are to be categorized. Those usually in the color wheel are categorized into fast and red, fast and cool. Fast and cool colors. So cool colored plants having a very cool color in terms of flowers. they are to be used nearer to the dwellings or nearer to the paths, and the plants which are having very fast and attractive colors can be visible from quite a distance. So they need to be placed a bit farther from the central axis or from the imaginary axis or from the path or from the entry of the garden. Then yes, this was about the elements. Now coming to our this hello. Meanwhile, I would like to intervene. Hello, am I audible this time or I'm
Yes, sir, you're audible.
okay? So I thought that maybe I'm not getting any response from anyone. Maybe all of them have slept, I think. Huh? So okay then. Then coming to the features, garden features. So in features, we have garden walls, we have fences, we have steps, we have garden drives, we have garden paths, we have planting hedges, we have edge plantings, we have arches. On those arches we can train the plants. Then we have pergolas. On those pergolas we can train the plants. We have terraces, we have paved paths, we have dry walls, we have lawns, we have several components, innumerous components which cannot be discussed at a whole length, because it will take a lot of time then to discuss all the things at length. So, so I'll be taking some of the components. Like if we make these, it would have been better if I had been able to show. Then I'm sorry, I'm not able to show you these slides. Like if you see the walls, in case of these fences and walls, we are having several wooden fences we can just make. It is fence is simply it is a sort of, you are just dividing your this garden, or you are just obstructing other people to come out. So you can use live fence, you can use non-living fence like wooden fence, or you can use wall as such. For making this wall, there are several materials can be used. So here we will be discussing the materials like plants. If we want to restrict the entry of the people or the unwanted persons or the unwanted animals to come on, we can simply use some plants which are very fast growing plants, and which have a lot of thorns and which do not let people to come in. Like you are having some rubus plantation, you can go for rubus plantations around the fences. Then that will give you a live fence, and simultaneously it will protect your this garden portion. But the thing is that they grow up, they take up very weedy, they grow very fast, and they need to be maintained. Their growth need to be maintained. Then you can trim up them. You can trim these live fences. Live fences of several other things can be used. There are numerous number of plants which can be used in live fences. Then in case of this non-living things, we are having non-living means, I mean to say wooden fence. We are having beautiful wooden fences which can be used as so far as fences are there. Then coming to the paths. The paths again, there you can have gravel paths in your garden. You can just simply make this. You can lay down the gravel over there, and then you can just, first of all you have to concrete your path at least 6 to 9 inches below the soil, so that it does not, if the traffic is not much, you need to walk only on it. Then you need to spread some sand, and then on that sand you can place some gravel. That gravel also looks very beautiful. Then you can make brick paths, and in case of brick paths you need to concrete them, and you need concreting them beyond the brick layer. You need to concrete a bit. Then afterwards you need to place those bricks over there beautifully. You can place those bricks are brick material. There is numerous type of materials which can be used, like tiles we are using sometimes. So tile paths are also there. So in case of tiles, you need, again, if you are having concrete tiles, those colored concrete tiles are available these times. So for that you need to just give a layer beneath the soil. You need some boulders to concrete it to give a sound base. Then you need to spread some sand on it, and then you did there's a system in those concrete blocks. They get fixed, so you need not to use any sort of cement or anything over there. They just have a lock and key sort of thing over there, and they can just get fixed. And it is a very easy job to make such paths. Then that's of course stone pavings. You are having tremendous amount of variability in stones we are having over here. Like we are having flagstones over here, we are having this limestone over here, we are having diver. Diver is an important item. Sometimes it is a bit costlier to make paths of that garden, but so several people who are having who can afford it and who are having very high aesthetic sense, they usually use that diver stone for making the paths. Then you can use crazy pavings. Crazy pavings means you are using those stones like slag stones and all those things, and you are keeping certain spaces in between those tiles, so to let the grass grow, so that you get a combination of the concrete and the plant concrete and green. Then grass paths. Yes, grass paths. What we do in grass paths, we usually concrete them below the surface, below the surface, and only half part of that. Suppose we concrete only the portions. Small portions are concreted. They are concreted, and small portions over there they are left open. No concreting is done over there. Then what happens? The grass ultimately comes up and covers whole area, and you, with a course of, say for example, a year or 2 or 3, you find whole path covered by grass, and you just feel, you just take a feel of that you are walking on grass itself, you are walking on a lawn itself, though it is not. It is a semi-solid. This is semi-concreted path over there. Then yes, hedge plantation, which usually we use for screening purpose. There are different hedges. Suppose we are having formal hedges, we are having informal hedges. In case of formal hedges, these flowering plants are are left open to flower. If we are having flowering, we can use flowering as well as non-flowering plants to make these hedges or screens. So these flowering plants or non-flowering plants, if used in an informal plan, we allow them to grow as such, and we don't trim them. But in case of formal plan, we need to trim them. We cannot allow them to grow their own way. We have to trim them, and we give them a particular shape. We give them a particular shape, and that is known as formal type of these hedges. And in case of this hedging, if you see, you are having n number of plants which can be used, flowering as well as non-flowering. But nowadays, I just wanted to let you know one plant at least which gives a good contrast, which was not earlier found in Kashmir, which has been brought from some nurseries from the Bangalore or Pune-based nurseries have introduced that plant over here. That is Loropetalum, and that Loropetalum has a purplish leaves, the shrub that can be used a very good hedge, and especially when used with yellow background. Suppose we are having an own plant over here, privet plant is over here. If we use that privet plant in background, and or that the combination of that two, that gives a tremendous appearance. Then in case of edging, edging can be done with lateral and with again with plants, as well as the compounds, as well as these concreted these things like bricks we can use for edging. We can use small boulders for edging. These edges are to be created round the flower borders, are along the paths. These edges need to be maintained or need to be created. So if we are using non-living things, So that means we are using concrete, or we are using bricks, or we are using stones to edge them, to give edging to the flower bed or the path. Then, in case of these non-living, in case of these plants, you have to use those sort of plants which are very low growing. Low growing. Then again, there you'll find you are having a choice to use non-living as well as this non-flowering as well as flowering plants. I will just quote one plant over there. I will just give an example of one plant. Lavender. Lavender is a very beautiful hedge, really very beautiful hedge. If used along the path, because it gives flowers and it gives fragrance. So fragrance, in especially in summer months, it gives a very good fragrance. A very good. If you are having a long path, I'll suggest you to use this lavender plant as an edge plant. Or in case of this, if you are interested to go for this non-flowering edging plants over there, then you are having a variegated type is there. One Unimus fortunei is a variegated type, and then you can have Unimus microphylla that gives a good edging. Besides, you can use Centolina, silverish tinges there, so that can be used as edging, and a beautiful edge can be made out of those plants. So there is a huge list of plants which can be used for edging purpose. Then yes, if we are constructing pergolas is nothing, is a combination of arch. If we are using pergolas and all those things, they are used as sitting places. So on them we can train creepers. We are having several type of creepers who are available over here. It's like we are having wisteria, that love flower with fragrance with their rose. We can use this trumpet vine. But trumpet vine is having a problem of ants, so it will not be a good choice for training them on pergolas, because we have to sit beneath the pergolas, and this the insect or the ants, they create problems later on. So it is better to use clean plants like rose. You can use easily, and you can use, in fact, vines like this. Hydra helix can be used. Variegation, several variegated leaves are there. Variegated type of ivies are there. Those can be used. Then arches. Yes, in case of arches, because arch usually that is made outside, that is then entry level. So in case of arches, you can use this trumpet vine type of thing over there. Or else, if you have clements is a very beautiful plant that can be used on these arches, that can be trained, or the rose arches simply can be used, and they give a very good feel to the garden. This I am talking of actually the features of these gardens, what we have to do in our garden. Then a sitting place, one more sitting place which we can create, which is usually nowadays picked up a lot, which has picked up a lot. People are usually asking for that sort of element in their garden. It is nothing. It is a pavilion, gazebo. It is a pavilion made outside your this in your garden area, which which can be a thatched one, or you can make a good roof, wooden roof. You can make of material is unlimited. Material is unlimited. So you can have that sitting place, that gazebo, with all, it is open on all sides, and you can just place the garden seats under it, beneath it, because you normally, once we want to sit in the garden, we usually sometimes we face troubles with of the rain, and sometimes we can't withstand the scorching sun. So for that, it gives protection from all the vagaries. So you can enjoy while sitting under these gazebos in your garden without having any disturbance, any climatic type of disturbance from interfering. You are just enjoying your garden views and activities. Then stone walls, which I already discussed, like haha walls. We are using sometimes dry stone walls. We don't use any concrete. We just place them dry stone walls. I think some messages there. So can I say how long it is going to hello? Hello?
Hello.
How long it is going to be
This is scheduled till 1:30, sir.
till 1:30. So I'll be having some 10
Eight,
minutes, sir.
eight to
10
10
minutes.
minutes.
Then, so going through these slides a bit fast. So triballs. Then yes, topiary. Topiary is an art of making these plants. Or we just take a framework of the. Then we train all those plants on that framework, and ultimately we get a shape of that. The shape of that animal. Suppose if you had seen Lalbagh Garden, or you had seen some gardens outside the state where elephants are made out of, or some birds are, that art is called topiary. So we are just clipping them around that framework, and we are creating an animal shape or a bird shape. And the only thing is the choice of plants. Here you should consider one thing that is important: that the leaf of the plant, whatsoever plant you select for that, the leaf should be that neat leaf should be small. And secondly, it should not break. It should not be hard. Its branch should not be hard. It should be very soft, so that you can just turn them around the framework. You can just train them around the framework of the animal or the shape you want to make out. Then specimen plants. Just I was talking of these specimen plants, like we are having some good flowering plants like Magnolia satellita is there, which gives a very good snowy appearance in the month of April. Then we are having Magnolia solangena, which we locally call tulip tree. Then, though it is wrong, but tulip tree that can be used. Then we are having several purple, like Acer with a purple coloration. Those can be used as specimen plants. Then sometimes we use the pagoda tree that we call those Saphora. Saphora japonica can be used as a specimen plants. Or even sometimes if you are having a vast area where you can use these chinars can be used as specimen plants. Then use of light and all those things. Use of light and music. If you use them in a proper way and you plan them in a proper way, it adds to the beauty of the garden to a huge extent, especially in the time. Then the components comes the main component is lawn. How to maintain it? It is it's a vast subject. Again, it will take at least a full session on the lawn itself. So it will be very difficult to do just with the lawn, but still I will try to do some. So one thing I would like to suggest to the listeners, that these lawns, the orientation or the placement of the lawns is very important. So once you construct the house, you should always give a preferred location for the lawn. You should place your house in the northwest direction, so that your lawn receive early sunlight. So if you are having a squarish plot, you are having four corners, you select a corner that is northwest corner. So that way you'll get south sun, southern aspect for the lawn. Then you will be having eastern aspect for the lawn. Once you are having those two portions, you will be getting eastern sun, you will be getting, and south sun you will be getting, and the lawn will not face the otherwise, if you make your lawn from now, you play your placement of houses on the south side, then on the north side you will be having all the shade over there, and the lawn will not grow properly. Then drainage important. So for drainage you have to give underneath the soil. You have to provide the pipes. You have to make slots in the pipes, and you have to fix them at least 9 each, and you have to pack them with gravel and all those things, so that the extra moisture and water that moves through these, so that enters to the pipes to the slots. And there is a typical this people are there. This people, well trained people are there, who just know the layout of irrigation, like pop-up system you want to provide. So irrigation facilities and drainage facilities, engineering people are there who can just make it for you. Then coming to the selection of grass, we are usually having several grasses over here, which are broadly categorized into two categories. One is cool season grasses, and another is warm season grasses. Like the normal grass which you found over here, common dupe grass, that's called Cyanodactylon. That can be used. And one more choice, creeping bent, that keeps. But the problem with the dupe grass is it is a very good grass. It is very resistant to the disease and to so many things. But the problem is that it doesn't remain green throughout the year. So it turns brown very early in the autumn. So our lawn looks shabby, and you want to change it with some grass, which at least remains green throughout, not if not throughout the year, at least for the major part of the year. So I think creeping bent grass is a good choice for that. So if you use that creeping and bent grass, that remains while that remains almost for 9 to 8 months, that remains green, and that is a very good choice, very easy to maintain. Only one thing is that it is a cool season grass. You need to have some irrigation facilities during the hot summers. Then in cool category, you are having Kentucky bluegrass, ryegrass, which you might be knowing. Then this ryegrass is the fescues are there. Then in case of this warm season grass, Korean grass is there, zoysia, and Saint Augustine grass, Saint Beach grass. These types of grasses are there in warm season grasses. And usually, what we have to we need to, if we want to have the lawn of which will remain green throughout the year, we need to blend the seeds. We need to blend the seeds, both the types, warm as well as cool season grasses. Then, yes,
Mic is on.
hello. Yes, we need to blend. Basically, in European countries and other places, you will find in market the seed mixes for particular place. Suppose you are having a front lawn, they will provide you a mixture of a proportion of one type of, only not one type of thing will be there. There will be several grasses blended in a proper mixture, proper proportion, and that is to be used in the lawn. So I think until that thing is available over here, we can usually simply do one thing. We can mix that dupe grass and creeping bent grass. Those can be mixed, and that will give us a green tea for the year. Then coming to the next portion, that is how to raise this. So there are different methods like dipping, turfing, turf plastering, and seed sowing. And so these are the fastest means of raising the lawn. If you want it to raise in a very quick and fast method, is turf. So you have to roll, you have to just get the turf cutters. They will remove the turf from the nursery, and they will get the patch, and they will simply place on the area, and your lawn will be ready in a day or two. Then besides all the maintenance activities, because those things it will be out of scope to cover those things. So one thing is important over here, that in every fall and in every spring, you should go for raking of the lawns. Raking of the lawns is important because it removes all the grasses which create all the grasses which dead grasses which accumulate, which we turn into thatch, just that is to be removed from this lawns, because they create problems otherwise if they start decomposing.
Dr. Kazi Altaf Sensad,
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
ma'am.
thank you on behalf of Principal of Government Degree College, Amir Road, and I thank you on behalf of my department And your lecture was very, very informative. It was really an eye-opener for all
It would have
who
it would have been very, very good had I been able to
gardens
share
around their
this.
dwellings. And we learned a lot from your lecture. And moreover, it was very informative. For example, we had to know about the gardening involves two different aspects. It involves an hardscaping and soft spaking, wherein hardscaping come to know about its engineering part, and in soft scaping we will be doing about its floriculture aspect. And moreover, it was very important, informative, to create aesthetically beautiful place. We came to know about the focal point in the garden, rhythm, simplicity, complementation of colors, variety, golden ratios, and finally we also came to know about the features of a garden, wherein we came to know about all its aspects. Finally, your lecture also deliberated upon placement of a lawn in a dwelling, and moreover, you trusted upon that various technologies are used in today's gardening, wherein we can do computation, sketching, and drawing with the help of computers. And finally, it is the human mind which can have a very wonderful concepts to make them practical by way of having those beautiful small places around us in the form of gardens. I thank you personally very much. I thank all the viewers of the webinar. I hope that they must have learned out of it, and they will definitely use these modulations in their day-to-day practice in gardening. I thank you all. Thank you, viewers. Assalamu alaikum.
बस बस
Okay, thank you so much.